Hey there, welcome to Sheet Music with Raquel. Today we're going to talk about how to write your own intro slash outro slash turnaround between verses, what I kind of jokingly refer to as a noodle, because you're just noodling around with the hymn and you're coming up with your own little creative compositions at the beginning and at the end and in between the verses. So a lot of times people think if you're going to create something like this, you have to just magically hear melodies in your head and write them down. And they're like, I can't, I don't hear them. Or even if you do sort of hear them, you don't know how to get them on paper and they don't know where to start. And some of that is because they're expecting that they need to have a lot more creativity than they really do. A lot of times you can get your inspiration for noodles directly from the song itself. And to do that, you look for what's called a motif, or something called a motive. And that would be a recurring pattern that happens throughout the song. It doesn't have to happen a lot, but it's just some little pattern that you can pick up and do things with. So you hear motifs and stuff all the time. Think about, for instance, a motif could be rhythmic, like Beethoven's Fifth. Da-da-da-dun, 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 da-da-da-dun. Like, you don't even have to have notes with that. You can go cha-cha-cha-cha, and everybody like knows what song you're thinking of because that rhythm is so defining. A motif can also be more like a chord progression, harmony-based motif. Think about canon in D, for instance. In canon in D, you're repeating the same chords over and over throughout the song. That chord progression never changes. It just loops indefinitely, or it seems like indefinitely, right? And then a motif can also be a little bit more melody-driven. It might be just a pattern that, you know, it's going up by the same interval every time. Often it's coupled with a similar rhythm every time, but a good example of that, for instance, would be There Is a Fountain. There Is a Fountain has that little three-note motif that you kind of hear throughout the piece, right? Abrupt there, but you can hear that. And even it kind of does the same thing halfway through the song. It changes the interval shape a little bit, but you still have that ascending three-note pattern. You get the point. So let's choose a hymn and see how we can find a motif that we can borrow and experiment with. So an easy one to do is the hymn Nothing But the Blood of Jesus. And this has several great options for motifs. One motif would be the little, it's a very recognizable rhythm for a lot of us, right? So what you can do there, I'm in the key of G. So I'm going to start, you can start really on any note you want to. My camera is wiggling because the cat is rolling on the tripod. Cat, you're so cute. You're like totally adorable. Can you say hi to everybody? Say hi. Hello, kitty. She's like not happy about this. You are so disrupting this video. Her name is Mistletoes. Anyway, so get away from the tripod. No, really, do. Thanks. Where was I? Motifs. Yes. And so we were talking about this rhythm being recognizable, and we can start on any note of the G chord, and you can think about what did that do. It went dun 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 dun. It went up dun 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 and back down. So we can start when you know where we want. And you don't have to echo it exactly. You could go up, down, down. Something like that. You could start it on a different note of the chord. Something like that. Now, what if you wanted to do something that was maybe slower, quieter, more prayerful? A great motif there is simply the very beginning. You could do that slowly. You could do it with a G chord, E minor chord, C chord, or another one that you could use would be in the chorus when it says, "Oh, precious is the flow." Just three notes, but that's a great one. C chord, G chord, D. So you can see we're looking at the hymn and we're just picking out little pieces of the hymn, and we're doing what in jargon is sometimes called sequencing, which is you're repeating the same pattern just at a different place in the scale. So let that be some inspiration to get you started. Pick out a simple hymn and look for is there a pattern in here that I could play and then echo. Now, to do this effectively, you do kind of need to be somewhat familiar with your scales and the chords that go with each scale. If that's something you're not familiar with, I do have a little cheat sheet that I'll be putting on my website So if you just go to www.upstatemusiclessons.com and click on the sheet music tab, I'll have a free download for you there that'll have a little overview of the notes for each scale and the three main chords for each scale. There are three, if you're in a major scale, there's three main major chords that go with that scale. Each of them also has a minor chord that is related to it called the relative minor. Some of you might be familiar with that. And you can kind of borrow from any of those chords. One of those chords will always function as home. So if you're in the key of G, G is your home chord. You always usually, when you're writing noodles, you want to start the noodle on your home chord and you want to end the outro on your home chord. The intro can end either on the home chord or on what's called the home chord, by the way, is called the tonic, if you know your jargon. You can also end, though, on the dominant chord, which is 5 notes above the tonic chord. So if you're in the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, D is your dominant. That's a very open-ended chord. It leaves you kind of hanging. It wants to go somewhere. So that's what it would be if you go. You hear how, like, that's got you can't end there, right? So sometimes that's a good choice for a verse turnaround, because it lets the people listening know that something else is coming, right? So do some experimenting with that and try that out, and we'll have more instructional videos hopefully coming up soon. Feel free to drop me a comment if you have a question, and I'll try to answer you. Feel free to email me. You can email me at sheetmusicwithraquel@gmail.com. Raquel is spelled Raquelle. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.